Hey everybody, and welcome to another Jamovi tutorial. In this tutorial, we are going to continue our series on the pamlj power analysis module. There it is, pamlj. Now, before we jump into the next t-test, pamlj power analysis, we are using version 2.7.5, the newest one as of recording. So that's what I'm going to be doing. How do you get pamlj showing up under this power, this great little power thing, image, button, whatever? You go up to modules, you click on modules, you go to Jamovi library, and there it is, pamlj power analysis for linear models by Marcello Gallucci. It is still in beta, and I'll show you why when we go through this. But in this episode, we are going to continue with our t-test. So I've got a window open here, and we're going to jump in. We're going to click on power, and we're going to go into t-test. By default, it does independent samples, but that was the last video, so we are going to do paired samples. Now, there isn't much change to independent samples to paired samples, but one thing you don't have to worry about is the relative size of groups, because it's a single person doing two measurements, one group. So the sample size that we get in our power analysis is the only number we need to worry about. In the previous video, I said you're going to have to divide the number you get for this power analysis by 2, right? By 2. But in this one, you don't need to. It is the number, right? For this set, we need 44. I'll go into more details when we get started. First, let's jump into this info. And this aim of the analysis tells you calculate power, or calculate effect size. That's over here in this top drop-down menu, N power effect size. We're going to be doing N because we're talking about an a priori paired samples t-test power analysis. Amazing. Now, you can also see help can be found at the pamlj website. Unfortunately, this help page has not been completed. Got comments, issues, a spot bug. So I'm assuming that Marcello is working on these modules. He's putting, as you may have seen in my correlations video, he puts in screenshots and goes through the tutorial in a text-based format. So we're going to close that. We don't need any more of that. I'll show you what the sensitivity analysis plots look like, as well as put in a power parameters plot at the end here. But the majority of this video is going to be based on setting up the information that we need to calculate a sample size. So by default, we have some values here. We are using Cohen's d because this is a t-test. A t-test uses Cohen's d as its effect size, and Greek symbols are used for the parameters, okay, as opposed to the d, which is the statistical estimate, right? So we're estimating with Cohen's d, although that is an A, not an S. A little bit of a typo there, Marcello, if you're watching. But we're using delta, lowercase delta, as our parameter. And tooltip wise, or conventions wise, we've got 0.2, 0.5, 0.8. 0.2 is small, 0.5 is medium, and 0.8 is large. You could do weak, moderate, and strong for those values if you'd like. They're all very they're the same. It's just the language you want to use. Be consistent, right? So by default, we've got a 0.5 value in here. Okay. N is grayed out because that's what we're looking for. Don't worry, this 20 is not part of any calculations behind the scenes here. Additional parameters that we put in are the power percentage, as a proportion, of course, that we are looking for. By default, 0.9 is put in. Alpha, which is our type 1 error rate, right? 5% or 0.05. I don't recommend changing that unless you are seeing how alpha changes in this scenario for calculating your sample size. And then we have a two-tailed paired samples t-test. By default, it is a two-tailed, but you can do a one-tailed test. But I recommend only if you have an a priori directional hypothesis. Otherwise, leave it as two-tailed. You'll get more people. You'll get a requirement for more people, right? A bigger sample size, but it's more conservative that way, and it will, if you're following this chart down here, it's absolutely going to be better, okay, in the long run. So I recommend leaving it as two-tailed. You can also have the explanatory text up here. It doesn't replace the info. It just comes underneath. It essentially takes the values that you put in up here and tells you the sample size. For some reason, this explanatory text is not in correlations, but it exists in all 3 of these t-test types. So I'll leave that up now. You can also perform equivalence testing and set your equivalence limit. We're going to ignore this for now because it's not really all that essential for a common design setup of a paired samples t-test. So we're gonna skip that. Okay, so as you can see, we got 0.5, right? Medium effect size, but a relatively high bar for power, okay? 90%, 0.9. That means we need 44%, as this thing is telling us effect size of D is 0.5, 0.9 is power, and type 1 error rate is 0.5. The t-test compares two means and repeated measures design, which is what another name for paired samples, right? So N is 44. We need 44 people to hit an estimated effect size of 0.5, right? And have 90% power in that decision that we've made, okay? And N-1 is the paired samples for degrees of freedom, which is why it says 43 here. The power by effect size chart tells us that in the case of the true effect size, looking at inequalities, that if we were between 0, absolute value of Cohen's d, d is symmetrical around 0, that a value of 0.3 is going to probably have a power of 50% or less, and we're probably going to miss it. Okay. If we land somewhere in between 0.3 and 0.43, then we're likely to have a power value between 50 and 80, and we have a good chance of missing it because we haven't hit at least 80%. The 80% mark is 0.432 to 0.556, and that takes us from 80 to 95, which is the typical range you will see a lot of power analysis estimates. I use 0.8, and so we're going to make that change here in just a second. If delta is more than 0.56, rounding, then we probably have greater than 95% power, right? 0.556 represents the 95th percentile value for this chart. Okay, so let's change this to a really small effect. Let's change this, not really small, but generally small, 0.2. For my students, I usually say if they can't find it in the literature and they're doing a paired or independent samples t-test, then to use 0.2. One thing that isn't part of a paired samples t-test is the correlation between the two measurements, which is a value that you should get if you are looking at a paired samples t-test. Measurement 1 to measurement 2 or time 1 to time 2, whatever your pair of measurements are. You should see what that correlation is, right? Because you want it to be not too correlated, but you also don't want it to be uncorrelated, unless you've done some sort of uncoupling intervention, right? Whatever your measurement is. You kind of want it to be sort of in the middle. That is not part of an a priori effect size calculation. But underneath the hood, there are some differences between independent samples and paired samples T, so you don't get the same numbers you would. So it's very important to remember that. If you're doing an independent samples t-test, do not use this module. If you're doing a paired samples t-test, do not use the independent samples module because they will give you the wrong values. Very important. Just wanted to make that clear because, I mean, everything looks the same, but if you're not under the right one, then you could end up with a big issue. Okay, so if we change this to 0.2, as you may have noticed, we need 265. I was incorrect by thinking that it would be I was thinking to myself, maybe it's an even number. But then I thought to myself, even if it wasn't an even number, it doesn't really matter because if it's odd, we're getting two measurements from that anyways. An even number would be for independent samples T, okay? So let's also, all right, so 265 for 0.2 at 90% power. That's not bad. But what if I couldn't get 265, but I still wanted to investigate a small effect size? Well, let's lower our power to 80%, which is a more conventional. There is no hard and fast rule for any of this stuff, but it's more conventional. It does reduce our power of detecting an effect, but it does allow us to measure fewer individuals. So now we only need 199 instead of like 250 or something, whatever that number was. 199, which is slightly more feasible for a small effect. But of course, if I were to put this at 0.8 and 80% power, you can see we only need 15 because it's a large effect. So we should detect it regardless. That's the idea behind sample size, effect size, and power, and the linkages of those three, right? Keeping our fourth constant of our alpha. When we have large effects, we don't need a lot of measurements to detect that effect. When it's small effects, though, we need a lot more measurements to detect those effects. And you can see these values shift when we change our parameters up here. These values in the true effect size chart change, okay? And we'll easily detect some of those things. One thing I want to point out is that the 80th percentile value is actually 0.778 with 15 individuals, okay? Or 0.78 if you round up. Right? It's 0.02 below 0.8. But you have to remember that this is the minimum desired power, right? So this 80th percentile value is 0.78, but we actually want to fall into this range, 80 to 95. We want to fall into this range. So that's where our Cohen's d of 0.8 would fall. That's why the chart looks like this. Let's end this video with a look at the power contour plot. Okay, so yellow represents my 0.95 and above. When you look at a power contour plot like this, you want yellow to be super big. And that's because you don't need all of this extra space, right, with all of this. Power contour plots effect size by sample size. And so you plot the curve using calculus, okay, on the 80th percentile gradient, which is like, this color green right here. Plot that curve, and then you go from Y, you draw a horizontal line. Where does it hit the curve? Bing, right there. Drop it down. It's on 15. I know that's a little off. Maybe it's like 14.9, but of course you can't have a 14.9 person. You have to round up to the whole number. So you have 15 right there. So that's what those look like. You can also power curve by effect size, which is this cubic or log curve right here. That's a little bit off right there, okay? But that's 0.8 by 0.8, okay? Or you can do a power curve here by sample size, and you can see that as soon as it hits one, it asymptotes, and right about at 40 people, I would say, if I were to draw that all the way down, about 40 people, you're not gonna get more. If the effect size you're looking for is 0.8, it's not gonna get any bigger, okay? The more people you do, you can't get more power than 0.99 99999 repeating, right? It's not going to actually go to 1. So those are our power sensitivity analysis curves. And they use the same gradient, right, by the way. So this legend works for both of these. You can also do power parameters plot. So I can plot effect size, or excuse me, power by effect size, and it makes this plot, which is kind of funny because that's, I think, this one right here, right? So it looks just like that. And you can change your x-axis, but then you can also plot things by different curves. You can have a couple of curves here. Let's do, so you can see we need a value. 0 is not appropriate. So if we do 10 and let's say 20, we can get those two. You do have to scroll back down. And you can see here that my sample size of 10, so that's if I just had 10 people, this is the blue line here. Effect size is very small down here, very little power, but it grows as we go up. But it would have to be a pretty big effect size to get the appropriate level of power that we need. Otherwise, we're making a type 2 error and we're saying an effect exists, or we detect an effect that's not really there, right? This curve, this orange curve is with a sample size of 20. You can see it starts down low, but it actually picks up a lot more steam if you have larger effect sizes. So you can, I mean, I'm just showing a power parameters plot. You don't actually need to include these in a power analysis. This would be more useful if you were doing like, calculating power or calculating effect size. So that is how you do a paired sample t-test power analysis in the pamlj module, pamlj. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or other feedback, please leave those down below in the comment section. Stay tuned for the next one. I'll see you in it. Bye.